Welcome to the Southern California Prep Insider Baseball Podcast. It is finally playoff time, Les. We're here. It's happening. So we got kind of a different podcast for you today. We're going to pick and choose some games from the lower divisions. We're going to try and get as in-depth with D1 as possible. I promise you when the playoffs go a little bit further, we will break down every game more individually, but it is very difficult with 7 divisions and a million schools making it. So we are going to do our best to try and get to as much as possible, but again, apologize for the amount of teams that have made the playoffs. I promise if you advance far enough, we will talk about your team. We will talk about your game. But for now, Les, first let's start with our top 10.
Yeah, let's go back to the old school way of doing things here, and let's go 10-1. Number 10 is Notre Dame from Sherman Oaks. They won the Mission League last week in a pretty thrilling fashion over Harvard Westlake there. Ukaipa checks in at number 9. Number 8 is Aliso Niguel. They are cruising into the postseason where I think they got a number 5-ish seed overall, somewhere in that area. Number 6 is the aforementioned Harvard Westlake. We have them ahead of Notre Dame simply because their body of work is a little bit better in our opinion. Number 5 is J. Sarah, number 2 team out of the Trinity League. Number 4 is your number 4 overall seed in the Division I playoffs, and that's Huntington Beach. Number 3 is your number 3 overall seed, and that's La Mirada. Number 2, as you guessed it, is your number 2 overall seed, and that's Cypress. And at the top, again, is Orange Lutheran, winners of the Trinity League for the second consecutive year.
Yeah, and if you mentioned Ukaipa, we had probably one of my favorite ever Crunch Time segments of Jessica Lucero and Ukaipa. Gibbons is a very confident kid, that's all I'm going to say.
Dude, I watched that yesterday, man. That's hysterical. She does a great job with those to begin with, but I don't know how she keeps her composure half the time with some of the things that are going on in those skits, man. It's hilarious.
That was one of my favorite all time. Again, the kids did a great job, and we will get to the D1's matchups when we get towards the end of the podcast. For now, we're going to keep it kind of normal. We'll go to our players of the week. I've got Ethan Cloyd from Dunn, 4-for-7 with 3 home runs and 6 RBIs in back-to-back games last week. He will be playing at Cal next year. Now we're going to go to El Toro. It's Paul Skeens hitting .640 with 9 RBIs and a home run in his last 8 games. He's a junior currently committed to Air Force. We'll see where he ends up after next year. Louis Garza from Sunny Hills, a 13-game hitting streak going on, and during that streak he's got 3 home runs, 20 RBIs, so he's looking good right now. And Diego Armas from Jurupa Hills has 35 stolen bases in 26 games. He's hitting .523 this year.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Skeens next year. You mentioned what he's doing right now in the last 8 games, but he's a guy, in my opinion, is possibly the best catcher in his class in the state. That commitment to Air Force tells you what academics mean to him, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out with the draft and everything next summer. But let's head over into my players of the week. We're going to start at the Lennox Academy with senior right-handed pitcher infielder Angel Gonzalez. Was 4-for-6, scored a pair of runs, had an RBI. Also went 1-0, throwing 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts last week. Pretty good week there for the senior Angel Gonzalez. Head over to the aforementioned Notre Dame, 2020 outfielder Devin Ornelas. He was big in the one game I saw last week in that series, but he was 6-for-10, scored 3 runs, was hit by a pitch, stolen base. Obviously, we mentioned that they beat Harvard Westlake to win the Mission League. We'll head over to Gar High School, senior left-handed pitcher Jason Dressel, the uncommitted senior in the deciding game for league. And Gar kind of snuck their way into the postseason this year. The deciding game for the league championship, he went a complete game, no earned runs with 6 strikeouts versus Warren to get his team into the postseason. So big ups to Jason Dressel.
And he's uncommitted, so if you're a college, hey, maybe factor that in. Sorry.
That's a good point. I forgot that. Best for next year.
We need a button, a little blinker.
Yeah. And my last guy is this guy's, steady as they come. Senior right-handed pitcher Zach Jacobs out of San Dimas High School. He's a UC Riverside signee. He closed the door on the league clinching win on Tuesday, then threw a complete game shutout on Thursday with 8 strikeouts. He's 9-1 with a 1.58 ERA on the season. His only loss was in a huge matchup to Maranatha and Dawson Nets early in the season, a game I was at where he was also really, really good. So those are my 4 guys here, Tommy.
Yeah, Dawson Nets, tough to beat out there in Maranatha. We're going to go to our field reporters really quickly. We'll come back with our playoff preview.
I'm here with Ethan Hoopingardner, right fielder and starting pitcher for Aliso Niguel. Thank you so much for joining us today. First off, congratulations on your commitment to USC. Fight on. Why did you choose the Trojans?
I chose the Trojans because, the girls, first of all, and I mean, it's just a great family there, and I really had a great time when I went out there to go visit.
How would you say USC girls are different from other colleges?
I think they're smarter, and I'm not the smartest tool in the shed, so I think they keep me in line.
Great. So how would you describe your playing style, and how do you think that's going to fit in with the Trojans?
I think I'm a leader on this team because I always take everything super seriously. I chose the Trojans because the girls, first of all, super seriously, and I'm always coming up early and doing extra work. First one on the field, last one off, and I'm always cleaning up and looking after my buddies. So.
How would your teammates describe you?
They would describe me as a hardworking, definitely funny, and good-looking.
If you could talk about anything other than baseball, what would it be?
Well, I really like synchronized swimming, and I like figure skating too. They're fun Olympic sports to watch. So.
Do you have a favorite figure skater?
No, I don't. Not on top of my head.
Can you name a synchronized swimming team?
Quinn Matthews did a lot of synchronized swimming when he was younger, and a lot of piano. And so did Evan Footer. So they probably have a lot to say about it, but not really me.
So what do you do in your free time?
I really just play baseball. Before games, sometimes I sleep in the clubhouse just to try to mentally prepare and get ready for the games. So it's pretty much all baseball for me. Sometimes, I go to school and I do my work, but it's mostly baseball.
Do you have any baseball superstitions or rituals?
Sometimes I sleep in the pantry before my games. It's just a good luck thing. I've done it since I was 4.
So which part of the pantry, which shelf?
Definitely the chip part. There's chips and bread. I usually just snack on those as I'm taking a snooze in there.
White bread, whole wheat, or 5 grain, or sourdough?
Usually white bread.
Give me your top 3 chip rankings of all time.
Doritos.
Like the nacho cheese one or the Cool Ranch? You gotta be specific.
Cool Ranch ones, actually. I like those. Regular Lay's, barbecue Lay's.
Regular over barbecue, interesting. So what's the brotherhood here like?
Oh, it's really close. We're a great group of guys. We've been friends since we were probably one years old, all these guys.
What's your favorite memory from when you were 1 year old? 1 year old?
1 year old? Probably when I started walking.
Wow, yeah, that was definitely a huge milestone in your life. Do you have any crazy or funny team stories?
Well, I got kicked out of practice one time.
One time?
A couple times for talking back.
To who?
To our head coach Hansen. But it was just supposed to be funny, but he didn't take it as a joke. So.
What did you say?
I said, "You look funny today."
What's a little known fact about you?
I have a sixth toe on my left foot.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't want to know if that's true or not, quite frankly. You guys have a 26-4 overall record, 11-1 in league, number 1 in the CBU league, and you're headed into playoffs playing Chaminade in the first round. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling really confident in all of us. Right now we're playing a very competitive inter-squad, preparing for this game, and I think it's a great tool to have in your back pocket to always come back in games. So I know we're never going to be defeated no matter what the score is in the game, and we'll come back.
Last of all, what major attributes are you going to contribute at USC?
I'm supposed to be pitching there, but I'll probably swing the bat a lot in power spots when they need me. So.
Thanks again for joining us. We look forward to seeing you play.
Thank you.
Here with Redondo Union's Christian DiCochea, after the Seahawks pull off a big win over Wilson in the wild card of the Division II playoffs, you move on now to play Santa Barbara. You're a jack of all trades today, Christian. You hit a homer, you turned a beautiful double play. Your team looked great today. What do you attribute the win to?
Our pitching staff. Jake Thaw came out pumping strikes the whole game. We came out with 2 home runs in the first inning. Me and Max Amarippa, and later Liam Critchett with a home run. Offense was good. Defense had a few mistakes, but overall, it was a good team win.
Take me through the at-bat where you hit the home run.
I was looking fastball. I got a fastball down and away. Wind was on out to right. We got a short fence in right field, so just did what I could with the ball.
And I mentioned the double play you turned. Really nice play. You dove to your left, scooped up a really hard hit grounder, tagged second, whipped the ball to first. Are you making those plays on the regular?
Usually. I get a lot of ground balls hit to me with our pitchers, but I knew I had time with the ball. Ball was hit hard, just took my time through first base.
You're committed to Washington. Why did you decide on that school, and what was the recruiting process like for you?
The school is incredible. I committed beginning of my sophomore year, so it was really early. They have a great baseball program. They won the College World Series last year. Love the coaches, love the players up there, and the environment.
Santa Barbara on Friday, long drive ahead for you guys, but you've been battle-tested all year with the league and coming in today getting a playoff win. What's it going to take to go on the road and get another victory?
It's going to come down to our pitcher, Drew Dalquist, probable first-round draft pick. As long as our offense does what we do, we should be okay with him on the mound.
That's Christian DiCochea of Redondo Union. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
What's up, guys? Jessica here with Devlin Lindemann here at Temescal Canyon. Now, Devlin, over here, you had that 3-run shot against JW North last week to secure that win. Take us back through that feeling when you hit that home run.
Well, Post looked at me right before I walked up to the plate and said, I want multiple RBIs here. And I got the hung curveball. I swung hard, and it just jumped. It jumped. As soon as I hit it, I knew it was gone, so I had to let the other team know. I celebrated it a lot. Got warned when I got back to the plate. The catcher was yelling at me. The umpire was yelling at us, so it was a great feeling to win the game like that.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, on senior night, too.
Exactly. And this is the first year here as Ivy League, and you guys were able to get that title as Ivy League champions this year. What has that been like to senior year? You guys were able to walk away with the win.
It was really cool, especially knowing that going into the game, we knew that Paloma lost, so we had that chance. And first time winning league, like, that was the best feeling of baseball so far high school. Only one thing can top it. And the CIF.
Now you have been on this varsity team back and forth on your freshman year and then officially since your sophomore year. Now here you are as a senior. Coach says that you're one of the leaders of this team. What has it been like to grow with this team?
This team, we've always been a family because we've played together since we were 5, 6, some of us. So, like, we've all been growing together for the whole time, and our program's we've been building this thing for the last 4 years. And it's crazy what we've become to do. Being the small team, we're always underdogs, so it's nice seeing it grow up.
Now, what kind of memories do you guys share on this team? Without getting into any specifics, but what are some just fun things that pop into your mind?
Team dinners, always parties. Like, we go to B-dubs all the time. Going to our ace's house, Dane's house, every weekend almost. Having fun with each other. Just always partying up.
Now, you guys, back in 2016, so your freshman year, you were able to win the Sun Belt League. But here you are, come 2019, senior season, you were able to win Ivy League, completely different league. So you had a couple of new opponents to face. How rewarding was it to finally happen on your senior year?
Winning the Ivy League was big because there are no down weeks. In the Sun Belt League, we had like the Paris weeks and the Lakeside weeks where it wasn't as tough competition. This year is a dogfight every week. So it felt great knowing that we're the best of the best in that league.
Now, Coach mentioned beforehand that you guys out here at Temescal Canyon are sort of, you consider yourselves the underdog, where you have the Big 8 on one side of you, you have the Southwestern League on the other side, then here you are, Ivy League, a couple other leagues up in this area. But what does this say to those people that consider this the underdogs?
Well, we have 4 teams going to playoffs. All of us are going to compete. We're surrounded by the D1 teams, the big D1s, the big D2s, Vista, Corona, King, all those big teams that are going to compete. But we're always slept on. Once we get there, we always make work in playoffs. We always go big once we're there. So.
Very big one this week. Actually, on Friday, you guys are going off to face La Quinta, CIF, Southern Section Division II playoffs. It's going to start very soon. What are you guys going to be working on up until then?
We're just working on getting our game down, getting our tools ready for the game. We're going to have to piece together our runs with our hitting and pitchers. We just have to work on our defense. We can't give up any runs against him. We don't score enough to give up 2-3 runs, so we have to work on that.
Now, on your hat, it says KR number 5. Can you explain what that means?
Well, Kennedy Ryan she's number 5. She's our water polo captain. She passed away in October during her water polo season. So we all played our fall ball hats. We all put this up on there, and we got our banners up on behind our backstops. And it's just a reminder, like, play for her. Play like it's your last day. You never know.
That's very inspiring. Thank you so much for your time. I'm looking forward to watching you guys.
Thank you.
All right, it's playoff time. Like I mentioned, we're going to try to break down as much of these brackets as possible. Division 6 and 7, I'm sorry, we're not getting to you right now, but we will later in the playoffs, I promise. Again, once you get closer and closer to the finals and there's less and less games, it becomes easier. We're going to start with Division 5, Les. What are your thoughts?
I think the big story for me here is, the Dunn school, right? I mean, to me, these guys are the team to beat. They're the number 2 overall seed in Division 5, and that's no disrespect to the top overall seed. It's a smaller school from the Los Olivos area. They're 18-3 and have 2 big-time Division 1 commits in Brandon Lawrence going to Michigan and your player of the week, Ethan Cloyd, going to Cal. Now, Tommy, again, math isn't my strong suit, so I'm going to need your help here. In 21 games, they have scored 208 runs. Now, again, not a math guy, but that's pretty close to 10 if I'm not mistaken.
Might as well be 10, yes.
Might as well be 10. Okay, cool. So, I mean, they're scoring 10 runs a game, dude, and their STAP ERA is under 2.5. So I'm going to go with the Dunn School to win it all here in Division 5.
Yeah, and again, the Division 5 lot of good schools. I'm going to mention the Buckley School really quickly. The only thing that does scare me about them is they're 10-0 in league. I think if they would have had a stronger league schedule, it would have helped them out a little bit. But they are coming in with a lot of confidence. Again, if you don't lose a league game, that generally means the last games you played, you won them all. So that's another team to look out for in Division 5. Next, we'll head on over to Division 4.
Yeah, it's hard to go against the number 1 seed here, Sonora, in this division, and I'm not going to because that's a really good team, and they got a lot of talent. But they're going to be challenged along the way, man. St. Paul is a really good team in there. So is Ontario Christian. Canyon Springs is a good team, and you can't forget about number 2 Summit. I mean, that team's loaded. They run the bases really well, really good defense, and they're stingy when it comes to their pitching staff in terms of what they're going to give you to hit and when they do that. So Division 4 is going to get pretty interesting, I think. But in the end, I think it's going to be Sonora holding up the trophy.
Yeah, another team I want to mention too, kind of an unknown. Rancho Christian is in there, but they have not played that many games. So kind of weird. They have not played that many tough teams either. So could be good, could be bad. It's kind of a wild card team there in Division 4. Next, Division 3, what do you see?
Yeah, Paraclete's at the top of this bracket for a reason, and that's because the Spirits are a really good team. That's really simple, right? Number 2 seed Marina is the team here that I think is going to make a deep run and really position themselves to win Division 3. They've been good all season in a really difficult league against some really good opponents. One of the storyline here is it's too bad that Great Oak and Long Beach Poly could potentially meet in the second round if they both advance. It's going to end a strong season for one of those 2 teams. Again, 2 teams that are playing in Division 3 but have played in a really strong league against some really strong opponents.
Yeah, and you mentioned that they play a lot of tougher teams than what's in the division, and that generally bodes well for the playoffs, so I'm going to have to agree with you there. Speaking of those tougher teams, Division 2 and Division 1, again, a lot of teams that had to play were in those divisions, so what do you see in those 2 brackets?
Tommy, let's talk D2 real quick. I mean, the team that you and I have been talking about for 2 years is number 1 overall seed in Division 2. So congrats to Coach Lemus, his staff and players all at Arcadia. I mean, what a great story this has been for the last 2 seasons. Because we don't know yet who they're playing because of the wild cards, we're just going to talk about some teams. I mean, this division is as open as Division 1 in the sense that anyone can win it. San Dimas at number 2 is a team that you and I have talked about quite a bit this season. That's really good. And if they win, they'll advance to face the winner of Villa Park Corona Del Mar in round 2. I mean, that's brutal. That's no gift, right? Thousand Oaks is loaded with pitching and offense. And they have what appears on paper to be a good shot at the quarterfinals. Where they could potentially face Maranatha and Dawson Nets. I mean, you talk about no easy road. And then, obviously Bonita is a team that they kind of came out of nowhere a little bit. And as the number 4 seed, they beat up on Ayala a couple times like we talked about. They could make a deep run as the 4 seed. This division is just wide open.
Yeah, you mentioned Bonita. They have 2 pitchers with ERAs in the ones. One, Isaac Mendez with a 1.22, and then a freshman, Luke Mistone, with a 1.09. And then you have, again, a relief pitcher, Aaron Moreno, with an under 1 ERA. So good pitching there generally bodes well. The thing about that you have to watch out for, we talked about this in the years past. When you have one super dominant pitcher, it's when do you use that ace? Maranatha, Dawson Nets, when are you going to use them? I mean, it lines up pretty well if you go first game, take a break, next game, take a break, and then go to the finals, which is probably how they're going to do it. So, again, the time to get them is when he's not pitching. So they're a completely different team when he's on the mound than when he's not. So we shall see. Again, deep pitching tends to be the biggest, game changer when it comes to playoffs.
Yeah, but they're starting to get a lot of really good contributions from junior Owen Hackman too. So he's a guy that had to sit out the 30 days and has been pretty good for them since then. So, I mean, yes, is it a drop off? 100%, right? You're talking about a potential MLB draft pick here in June in Nets to an uncommitted junior in Hackman. But to Hackman's credit, he's been really good, and he's got a little funk in his delivery. So it's going to be fun, man. The Division II playoffs to me are going to be as fun as Division I. And you talked about, depth of pitching. I mean, you look at Division I, you got to look at Orange Lutheran, right? I mean, the quality and depth of arms that they have really bodes well for them. And, they open against a pretty sneaky team in San Clemente. This draw, Tommy, in Division I is just brutal, man. It's just brutal. I mean, we did a podcast earlier this week on PBR California, and we had some of these coaches on, and to a man, they were just like, man, it's, once you win it, you're gonna need a week long break, on a beach somewhere with a cold beverage.
Well, yeah, and I want to give some credit though to CIF because the way that it's structured for the playoffs this year. First round, 5-day rest, second round, 3-day rest. So you do have an opportunity to have those kids pitch every other game. So that's good. But yes, what else in Division I are you looking at?
Yeah, there's a few games here to open things up, for Division I playoffs that I've circled, and I'm still trying to decipher which ones I'm going to go to here on Friday. But I mean, Corona and Etiwanda could be a really, really good game. Corona, obviously, out of the Big 8 League. Etiwanda had a little bit of an inconsistent season, but they look like they're starting to put it together. And, those guys, Etiwanda, they've got quality depth in their pitching staff, too. So Marcus Johnson probably will get the start there, senior commit, Duke commit. So it'll be interesting to see that game, how that plays out. The other one is Vista Murrieta Ayala. That should be a really good game. We talked about Great Oak, and they play in the same league as Vista Murrieta, so there you see the playing up within the one league that we talked about a little bit. The game that I've circled that I might go to is going to be Aliso Niguel and Chaminade. Aliso Niguel is, obviously, we talked about their pitching staff a good amount here on this podcast, but Chaminade, Costello, Carter Graham, those guys are really hitting the ball very well right now. And, it's going to be interesting to see how the drive down from LA, to play a 3:00 game on a Friday plays a role there or not, all the way down to Aliso Niguel. So there's just a lot of storylines in Division I. I mean, what's going to happen with La Mirada? Is La Mirada going to make a run? If you look at their kind of pod, I mean, it looks like it sets up not easily, but fairly well for them. I mean, potential second round game is against the winner of Palm Desert or Gar, and we mentioned Gar kind of snuck into the playoffs, and Palm Desert's had a little bit of a tough go this season and a little bit inconsistent by their standards. So that could bode well for La Mirada into the quarterfinals.
Yeah, and you look at just slightly below that, you have Miracos and Jay Serra playing each other. That'll be a good game. I think both those teams have a very good shot at making a long run. Another team I'm very interested to see. We mentioned them a lot last year, being in Division II, being the front runners, and now they finally get the shot at D1. Beckman in there, going to play Capo Valley to start. Again, in theory, if you follow the path, they'd have to play number 2 Cypress after that. We've got Servite, but Servite is no easy out either. So tough break for the number 2 seed.
It's a brutal break, and Coach Weber from Cypress is one of the guys we had on our podcast, and he was talking about how, that's just, I mean, your last 2 teams in are the third place team from the Trinity League and San Clemente out of their league, right? And so you've got to put those guys somewhere, right? And it just happens to be that Servite gets the number 2 team in Cypress, and Coach Weber was beside himself, right? He doesn't really understand the process or the thought process. So what are you going to do? I mean, you look at it from the CIF's perspective, and I totally get their perspective, and their job is darn near impossible, right? With what they have to do with 500 plus schools in their section, and there's 7 divisions, and I think someone said there's 7 divisions in San Diego with a third of the schools, and so I don't know, but it's the hardest championship to win, in my opinion, in the state, and that's the Division I CIF Southern Section Baseball Championship.
Yeah,
because of the single elimination format.
Right, and I want to mention Ukaipa as well. They get a home game against Edison. That's a tough trip, and then if they get a home, I don't know what the deal is if we get a home game between them and the next the next following games, but that is far.
Tommy, that is far. And on our podcast, I picked Ukaipa as kind of my sleeper in Division One because it sets up well. I mean, they would play the winner of Foothill West Ranch, potentially at home. If it was Foothill, it would be a coin toss. If it's West Ranch, they'll have to jump on a bus. But then potentially they could face Cypress in the quarterfinals, or Capo Valley, or Beckman, or Servite in the quarterfinals. And now then your boy Heaton's back on the mound, and it sets up well for them to make a run there, right? And so the first game, you mentioned it earlier, is what do you do with your ace? You got to win, right? You can't keep your ace on the bench. You just cannot do that. So, it starts with winning that first game, and once you do that, then you kind of figure things out from there. But you got to win that first game. So you got to throw your ace the first game.
Yeah, and one more team I want to mention. You kind of gloss over them a little bit, I believe. Harvard Westlake has to play an away game at Valencia. Just the way it shakes out. That's going to be a very angry Harvard Westlake team throughout this whole playoffs. And again, if you go through the crash course of who they could end up playing, it could be Orange Lutheran in the quarters. That would be, again, tough draw.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they kind of had a tough go there last week, and they lost the Mission League. So as a result, they get the second place. But I think it sets up well for them, Tommy, because here's the deal: if Vista Marietta can beat Ayala, right, in the first round, and Harvard Westlake can beat Valencia in the first round, Harvard Westlake will have that home game against Vista Marietta. And hey, good luck getting from Marietta to Harvard Westlake for a 3:00 game, but leaving after 10 o'clock, right, on a Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever that game is next week. But I think it sets up well for them. Yeah, like they didn't win league, and yes, they have to go on the road, but this would set up well for them to set up that quarterfinal matchup that you talk about against Olu.
And again, I don't want to speak too fast because Corona, Netawanda, and San Clemente all have the opportunity to get there as well, and they're all good teams. Should be a fun playoff, Les. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, hit us up on Twitter at PBR_California, on Instagram at PBR California. The website is prepbaseballreport.com/California. We've got, podcasts, like I mentioned, interviews with coaches every week and other staff. We're going to have a CIF assistant commissioner on here next week or in the week after that to discuss the playoffs. And just a lot of content coming out every day. So hit us up on Twitter at PBR_California or on Instagram at PBR California.
And you can find us at SC Prep Insider SS for Southern Section on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure to follow us. We'll have score updates as much as we can. We promise. We're going to try. There's a lot of games. We'll try to get to as many of them as possible. See you next week.